can have this. Amazing. So I'm Hillary. I'm an artist in Los Angeles and an intuitive success coach, which means that I'm guided by intuition. I draw upon my success in business. I draw upon the spiritual realms and the practical realms, and I guide my clients to manifest their dreams in life and in business. And today, what I'm sharing about is I'm sharing a training on the key to manifesting as revealed by my 9-year-old son. Now it says I'm live on Facebook, but for some odd reason, I'm not able to see the live training up inside the group. So I'm going to go ahead and just refresh the screen because I do want to make sure. Oh, yay, I can see it now. That's so interesting. I went over to my profile and I see myself over there live in Women Helping Women. So wonderful. So if you're watching live, just say hello. Let me know where you're joining from. Okay. So something came up. It was my son's birthday over the past week, and he really, really wanted something. And as I was on my morning walk, I knew I wanted to do a live on manifesting. And as I was on my walk this morning, all of the downloads and all of the ideas started coming through. So walking, when we get into the body, when we do different things to get into the body, that's a really good way to allow the thoughts and the manifestations to the downloads, basically the intuition to come to you, the inner guidance. And what came through is this training that I'm about to give to you. So my son so he turned 9 over the weekend, and he really, really wanted to manifest a tree house. Okay. So, and not only just a tree house and a party at a trampoline park. So if anybody's parents or has had kids, you know that sometimes kids don't ask for the most realistic things. So we not only did the party at the trampoline park, but we also helped him to manifest his tree house. And we did it in this really, really creative way. So my first thought that dropped in when he asked for a tree house was, wow, that's like a really big gift. And we don't normally do, gifts that cost over, $1,000 for a birthday. That's just not really necessarily like our typical way that we do birthdays in our house. So initially I thought, wow, that's a really big ask, right? Then my mind went into the different costs involved. And then I started to think, well, that's not really possible because then we have to get somebody to build it. Me and my husband were a little bit handy, but we're certainly not handy enough to build the treehouse and put it together. Then I thought, oh, my husband's not going to like this because he loves our garden, like he loves our lawn. And I was thinking, I don't think he's going to really want a big treehouse in there. So my mind did the natural thing, which is to start to think about why it can't happen. And then I started to kind of negotiate and hear my husband's voice and hear all of the voices of the people who would probably say no to this, right? And in the meantime, my son just kept, this idea came about like 3 weeks ago. He just kept talking about the treehouse, right? And I'm also like really tuned in to like when we see things, when we're out and when we notice things, right? And I start to notice the signs. We were at Costco and we were shopping, and I noticed that they had like a little sky fort that was within our budget. So it was about around the $500, $600 mark. I just noticed that. I said, I'm not really sure if this is possible for us to do this, but, I'll consider it. So part of the process is that contemplation and that consideration. And so I'm bringing that into your attention, into your awareness, so that when you want to start manifesting things, you can start to contemplate and you can start to consider. And it doesn't have to be a yes or a no right away. So the next thing that happened is my son started to dream. So he was really all in on this idea. That's something he's honestly such a good manifester, and he does this all the time. He started to dream, and his next dream, and I wish I had it, I'm sure it's somewhere, but he started to draw it out. And he drew a picture of it. And he actually drew like this 3-dimensional rendering of the treehouse that he wanted, which involved a mini fridge, electricity, a flat modern roof. And then he actually went and he measured our bed. And he said, your bed is 70 inches. So I guess we have like a king size bed. It's 70 inches. And I need room for all my friends to be able to sleep and to be able to spend the night and to be able to be in the treehouse overnight with me. So I need at least 70 inches so that 4 of them can lay flat. And then I'm going to put the 5th one up on the roof. So like I said, it's not based in logic, our dreaming and our imagining. We have to be in the habit of really tapping into our creativity, right? And tapping into possibility rather than impossibility. So he started imagining this treehouse. Never mind the fact that we can't put a person up on the roof because they could fall off and that's dangerous, right? So that's what my mind started to say. Beyond that, he said, you know what? I said, you know what? I haven't agreed to this. I haven't said that you're getting the treehouse yet. He said, well, you know what? Just take me to the craft store, right? So I took him to the craft store. I said, what do you need from here? He said, well, I need to make some logos. And I said, what do you mean you need to make some logos? Well, he talked to his buddies at school and they all have different logos. One is a cookie and one is a popsicle and one is a sundae and one is an Oreo. So they all have different logos. I said, where are these logos going to go? Well, the logos are going to go in our sleeping bags that are going to be in the treehouse that I'm manifesting, right? So he just talked about it as if it was real, okay? And he started creating these logos, and I could just see him there with his friends, having an incredible time and, sleeping over and all of that. So I started talking about it. He drew a picture and he spoke it into existence. So one of the keys to really, truly manifesting anything that you'd like to bring into fruition is, and if you're watching live, just say hello and let me know what's one thing that you would really like to bring into your world, into your reality, or into your business. Okay. So we started speaking it. And honestly, the words are the key. So when you start to dream and then you start to speak the words into reality, it becomes the bridge between the thinking mind and the physical world. So before he put it down on paper, he started talking about it. And so like what the words that you choose are actually how you're bringing the magical and the spiritual into the earth plane, which is the practical. So a book that I'm reading right now, which explains this really well, is The 4 Agreements. And if you've read it, give me a little thumbs up. I was guided to this book less than a month ago. I was at a bookstore and I was in the spirituality psychology section, and I just watched my hand kind of go up to an upper shelf. And I just laid my hand right on this book and I opened it and I started reading it. And if you've read it, you know that the first agreement is to be really, really impeccable with your words. And Miguel Ruiz, the author, goes more into what impeccability means. And he's actually a channel, and he channels ancient civilization. And these teachings actually were channeled through him from this ancient Toltec civilization. So that really got me thinking more and more about the words. And I've been having conversations with other entrepreneurs and my clients about how much our words matter and how magical they are. So when you want to bridge between the thinking mind and in the physical world, I would say one of the first steps is to start speaking it into existence. So maybe you're in a place right now where you're not really having magical thoughts. Maybe that just seems too far out there. maybe you're even having trouble dreaming up these wild, abundant ideas, right? So you could be on autopilot. I know that when I had a 9 to 5, I was a little bit on autopilot, even back then. I know that when I started having the responsibilities of motherhood, I became a little bit on autopilot, right? And what I want to really challenge you to do, or maybe you're even putting like 10K months above everything else. So I see a lot of that online, people pushing really, really hard for the money and then prioritizing that above everything else. And what I actually teach with manifesting is that money is a byproduct of your happiness and your joy and your helping others and your satisfaction. So it's like a byproduct of your fulfillment that you're experiencing in your heart. So I've seen that not work because there's a disconnect between the desire, right? And then the feeling that you're actually having in your heart. So I've heard from people who've been in toxic relationships where the power dynamic is off, that they might feel like they're having trouble making some of their own decisions. So not even necessarily clear about what they'd like to manifest or what they'd like to see. Another example of this is like if you're going through like if you're at like a crossroads in your life and you're deciding which path to choose, it can feel difficult and you can be a little bit disconnected from your intuition. So, dreaming and desiring things is something that comes so naturally to children, which is why I brought up the story about my son. But I want you to think back to when you were a child, and I want you to remember if your dreams were something that were like really fostered and encouraged. So did you have a dream that you really wanted to see it happen? And like for some reason, maybe it's something that somebody said, it like kind of stopped you from dreaming. And I think this is like really common. So when I used to teach art, I would hear from a lot of my clients, I still give one-on-ones and privates, but I would hear from a lot of my clients that, somebody made a comment or somebody said something. Hi, Madonna. Thank you so much for saying hi and for joining me live here. Somebody made a comment like when they were a child, like, oh, you, your voice is not good or your artwork is not good. So I heard that from different people over the years. So the art one, like, really would impact the creativity and the creative expression. And then the voice one, which I heard from a substitute teacher, somebody told her not to sing. That one actually made her not want to use her voice. So were you encouraged to dream, and how big could you dream? And so when my son dreamt of the tree house, which would have cost us thousands of dollars to build because it had electricity and a mini fridge and all these cool things, he had no limits, right? There were no limitations. And he didn't think about how much it would cost or what the investment would be. It really didn't matter to him. He just wanted to have it happen. And what started to happen was, we started to see it magically unfold. Like first, I started to think, how can I foster this dream for him, and how can I help him bring it into reality? And then, of course, my mom said, oh, I'd love to contribute something to that and help it come even more into reality. And then we started talking to the grandparents. And then I reached out to my handyman who is really great at building things. And I said, when you're rebuilding our gate, which he's doing in a few weeks, can you help my son put this together? And maybe we can make some adjustments to it to make it something more viable that we can actually create, we can actually do. So I had so many outlandish dreams as a child? And I'm just curious if you were the same way. If you were, just drop one of those dreams into the comments, because I think it's super interesting. But I had so many outlandish dreams. And the first thing I would always ask is, how can I, allow this? How can I create this? How can I make this happen? So you want to get into the habit of dreaming, of speaking, and asking, and I've done another live on this in the past, asking open-ended questions like, what would it take for this treehouse to really happen? All right. So get into the habit of asking these incredible open-ended questions. All right. So now let's do a little test. Okay. And let's just see how the mind responds. So I am offering an international elite retreat on a Greek island in September. This island is the epitome of wild, abundant beauty, certain to foster your relationship to nature and yourself. We're going to do embodiment practices, which means getting into the body, like how I was talking about walking at the very beginning of this live. When we get into the body, that is when the downloads start to happen. So if you're spending a lot of time at your desk, too much time on the computer, you might notice that the downloads are not happening. We're going to do creative workshops. We have three creative workshops, 2 art workshops, and a culinary experience to help you get into your creativity, right? And then also to tap into that inner guidance system, that inner GPS, which I do through meditation and embodiment practices. Now, I'm the host. I have these incredible presenters who are coming along for the journey, and they are going to be teaching on all things manifestation. And manifesting is kind of the last piece of the puzzle of the dream retreat, because when we're connecting with other like-minded visionary women, when we're in the creative flow and we're moving through our bodies and we're listening to the inner guidance, that's when those incredible, profitable, money-making ideas and opportunities start to just kind of automatically magnetize themselves to you. So here was the test. When I started talking about this incredible retreat that I'm offering in September on a Greek island, what were your first thoughts? Were your first thoughts like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to join? And if so, that's wonderful, because that means that you're really in your receptive mode and you're really in this kind of open-hearted mode where you start to co-create. You start to think, how can I do this? What would it take for this to happen? How can this become my reality, right? And if you were more like on the other side, I can't take time off. Who's going to watch my kid? I can't afford it. My son just started school. Oh, it's, the timing, I don't know if I can go somewhere in September. If you were like on the other side of that, then you have to really ask yourself, is this like your default mode? Like, does the mind, and most likely, the mind does like to come up with reasons why, reasons why we can't do this, or reasons why it's impossible, right? And what happens is, when we're in more of that mode, and not the receptive mode, then we actually start to block all of these opportunities and all of these credible experiences and things that want to flow through us and to us. So our minds can be very sneaky in that way. And it's actually up to us to take back our power from our minds and get back into our body, back into our hearts, so that we can follow our intuition and live more magical lives with more alignment and more flow. So the solution that I gave to manifesting today is, and just drop your biggest takeaway in the comments. I love to hear what is resonating with you. Asking open-ended questions. How can this become a reality for me? Like whenever I want to manifest like a new program or a course or to work with a certain coach, I always just think like, how can I do this? How can I make this my reality? So who can I get involved? Like if there's somebody that you need to help you, like for me, it was like, I do need somebody to kind of come by and like help out my husband and like check on my son, like while I'm on this incredible retreat on a Greek island. Okay. So who can help you? Or with the treehouse, it's like my mom coming in and saying, I can help, or my handyman coming in saying, I can help. So how can we create this? And then you can also imagine yourself as brand new. So imagine seeing the world through the eyes of a child, having no preconceived limitations, right? My son didn't know how much that treehouse cost. He didn't really care either. So how can we see the world with childlike eyes and seeing things new? This works really well for relationships and anything that you want to create. How can you see the world with a fresh perspective? And then how can you create the conditions? This is a key to manifesting, especially not manifesting from force, which is something that one of my mentors loves to remind me about. How can you just create the conditions for things to happen and allow the things to start? So how can you be in your receptive mode? So this is how we co-create with the universe. This is the key to manifesting, and wishing you lots of imagination and incredible manifestations to come through. And start speaking it into your frequency and into your, like, actually the words charge up your energetic field. And when you start speaking them, you'll watch these things that are in your frequency start to attract and start to coming into you. And certainly, last but not least, if you're interested or if you like more information on how you can be in Greece on the Greek island with myself and other incredible visionary women, feel free to reach out, DM me. My DMs are open for the wonderful women in this group. Just let me know in the comments that you'll be reaching out. So I'll be looking out for it. And you can also find more information on my profile and in my Facebook group. Thanks so much for watching and have a wonderful day.